Good evening and welcome to the 2020 Buckeye Council Program Kickoff. My name is John Fehrenbach and I serve as the Vice President of Program. I hope that you and your family are well and have been continuing your scouting adventure over these last several weeks. It has been amazing to see how units and families across our council have innovated to keep scouting during this time. And we will be sharing some of the best practices later in this program. Our current circumstances may prevent us from meeting in person, but soon we will be able to gather around the campfire together again. Tonight's program and the supporting program guidebook you have already received by email are designed to help you plan and prepare for the upcoming program year. First, I want to share with you some highlights of how our council has creatively adapted to provide program opportunities to you and your family over the last several weeks. On March 23rd, we launched a 6-week program called Home Scouting, focused on advancement like home den adventures, merit badges, service through sending thank you cards to healthcare workers and first responders, camping in backyards, and much more. The impact has been incredible, with over 4,200 participants across 48 states, Guam, Europe, and Asia. Here are some scouts and families sharing the impact of home scouting made on them.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie and this is my son Wyatt. We're part of Carrollton Cub Scout Pack 141 in Carrollton, Ohio. I hope everybody is enjoying home scouting as much as we are. I believe my favorite part of home scouting would be paying tribute to our healthcare workers and our first responders by sending so many thank you cards. And also that gives us the opportunity to spend time with the people that we love and spending time with my son Wyatt. So Wyatt, what was your favorite part?
My favorite part was the time we got to camp out and have s'mores and pitch my tent.
Well, that was our favorite part. So hopefully you all have a favorite too. Bye.
Hello everyone, my name is Katie, this is our Tiger Weston, and we belong to Pack 126 in Belleville. Over the last 6 weeks, we have participated and really enjoyed the home scouting program. This was a great program to stay connected to scouting, the outdoors, as well as spending time together as a family. Weston will tell you a few things that we have done.
Built a campfire, went on many hikes, plant trees, went fishing, set up my tent, picked up trash, and many more.
Thank you, Buckeye Council, for providing this opportunity for our scouts and our leaders.
I am a Cub Scout from Pack 502. I live in Ashland, Ohio, and my favorite part of home scouting was doing the virtual campfire, and camping indoors, and doing s'mores indoors, and going for a hike.
My name's Catherine, and during home scouting, I started working on my 5-mile hike to stay physically fit, and I started identifying wildlife for rank. Also during home scouting, I helped with home maintenance by peeling wallpaper in our bathroom. I also started working on gathering pipestone for summer camp.
Hello, my name is Lucy Hopfer from Troop 111, an all-girls troop out of Buckeye Council. What I've been doing for home scouting is camping for 4 nights to earn my polar bear, working on merit badges such as personal fitness, citizenship in the world, communications, scouting heritage, personal finance, family life, and gardening. I've been working on community service while working in a food bank and picking up trash on the side of the road. And I've been attending virtual scout meetings with my troop.
Outstanding. What a great testimonial about the success and impact of the home scouting program and the difference it has made in the lives of so many scouts and scouting families across not only our council, but the entire nation. And perhaps even more exciting to me is the knowledge that non-Scout families have also availed themselves to the opportunities provided by the Home Scouting program as well. Hello, my name is Bernie Miner, and I serve as your Council Commissioner. And while you've heard about the success of the Home Scouting program, I'd also like you to know that it has gained national recognition as well. At the most recent National Commissioner Cabinet meeting, the success of the program was reviewed and discussed. And as a result, our National Commissioner, Ellie Morrison, is sending letters of recognition and appreciation to our own Sarah Biltz and Nathan Hopper, the two people most responsible for putting the homeschooling program together. It's truly amazing what can come out of a simple brainstorming session in an afternoon after the shelter-at-home orders were given in an effort to keep scouting in front of our scouting families. But we aren't done. Stay tuned for details regarding the Cyber Summer Camp that's to be offered and the STEM awards that Scouts can earn with their participation. As Council Commissioner, I work with a dedicated group of volunteer commissioners within the Council and all of our districts. We strive to provide ongoing support and service to your local PACs, troops, and crews by connecting regularly with the leadership of your unit. While we prefer to make those visits in person, our commissioner team has been busy recently on the phone checking in. We're also providing resources through virtual roundtables and responding to your requests for information and support. We stand ready to help you not only through this time, but during all times to have the best scouting experience possible. If you ever need support, please don't hesitate to contact your unit commissioner, your district commissioner, or myself, and we'll do our best to meet your needs. Through programs like home scouting and other innovative practices like the virtual merit badge sessions, units and den meetings via Zoom and other video conference platforms, we've seen more than 75 to 80% of our units actively continue in scouting during this time. If you and your unit are a part of that group, many thanks for continuing your efforts in the scouting program. As we go forward, please note we're always looking to add to our commissioner corps. So if you have any interest or know of anyone that might be interested, please have them contact your district commissioner or certainly have them get in touch with me directly. Now, please welcome Brian Burse, Scoutmaster at Troop 50 in Alliance. He's going to share with you some best practices for virtual scouting.
Good evening. My name is Chris Hyde. I am the Sandy Beaver District Executive with the Buckeye Council Boy Scouts of America. And tonight I am here with Mr. Brian Burse, who is the Scoutmaster of Troop 50. We were able to nail Brian down tonight. He is quite a busy guy, but to get him here to talk a little bit about what his troop has been doing virtually and how scouting has been able to continue in his troop using a platform called Zoom. So Brian, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what you have been doing.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Chris. Obviously we're here because we all needed to find a way to communicate and continue to meet with our scouts and our leaders. We really jumped into the Zoom platform and really right away started to use it and found that it has quite a number of tools and applications that we're able to use throughout the week. I always say that sometimes our scouts are our best resources. They're very tech savvy and have been able to show us some things. So it's been great. And I actually put together a little bit of a slideshow, if that would be okay for me to throw up.
That would be great.
All right. So this is one of the features of Zoom, is sharing your screen, obviously. And hopefully you see my slide presentation.
All right. Perfect.
All right. So usually we'll start off our meeting, we've done a pretty good job of allowing our PLC to continue to run our troop meetings. They'll meet separately, a couple days ahead of time. We open up with the Pledge of Allegiance. We post our troops' agenda for the meeting so that everybody can prepare ahead of time. And I'll talk a little bit about where that's posted. But this was the beginning of our meeting this past Monday night. And here is our meeting. Now, there are some folks that you don't see because they're not sharing their video, but you can see we have pretty good participation. Everybody's, for the most part, we try to keep everybody looking good, so they're in their Class A's, Class B's, and doing a pretty good job of staying visible and in the middle of their screens. So we actually held a presentation in this particular meeting about Zoom etiquette. So it was kind of fun. I found some resources on YouTube that were, a couple minute long videos that were cartoony and silly, so that the scouts could giggle along with them, and it helped right away. They could see some of the things that maybe they could do a little bit better about camera angles and noise in the background and things like that. So, and then we moved into some rank requirement presentations put together by the scouts. This was my senior patrol leader and one of our first class scouts that put together a presentation as part of the first class rank requirement, and shared it with the rest of the troop. And it took about 5 or 10 minutes. They did a great job. Had a question and answer session at the end, and so everybody got to participate. And from there, one of our scouts did a rank requirement presentation on the parts of a canoe and a kayak and a rowboat. He found resources online and talked through that as well. So we had the good training content portion of our meeting. And between each presentation, we made sure that we had everybody stand up and give a good wiggle and try to stay loose. And so we're trying to keep the meetings fun, because staring at a screen for an hour or two is never a good time. Something else I wanted to show you is what are called the breakout rooms. So that in the next portion of our meetings, what we would do is we can actually assign each person in the meeting to a separate meeting room. And then we broke out into patrols for 20 minutes. In each patrol, this particular meeting was assigned the task of coming up with a silly song or skit that they could do when we came back together. And this gave us an opportunity for our adult leaders to spend 20 minutes together and talk about things that we have coming up as well. And then another great thing that we have used, here's our adult leaders meeting in last week's breakout room. Something else that is a great feature of Zoom is the polling. We actually held our PLC elections a couple of weeks ago using the polling feature. It is anonymous, so the other scouts don't see the results. And hopefully you're smiling at the questions.
I say I love question 2 there. Hopefully that was pretty much a unanimous decision for a positive response, right?
So I just threw this together as an example of what you could do with a poll.
Awesome.
And it's great. And actually, we're going to be holding our OA elections this coming Monday during our meeting. And our OA scouts are going to be leading that and running a poll the same way that we did for our PLC elections. So, and then when we came back, the patrols had the opportunity to put on their skits and their songs. And one of the patrol leaders, Elena, she shared with us her lyrics, and we sang along, call and answer. It was a lot of fun. A lot of us were, I know my cheeks were sore by the end of the meeting.
That's awesome.
One patrol created a slideshow, and this was just one of their slides. But what's great about this is that they intentionally made it look silly. They intentionally made it so that when they took turns reading it, they would sound funny. And my goodness, we were in tears. We were laughing so hard. And you can see, scouting is fun. You go outside, you have Sprite. I'm not going to try to do it in the voices that they use, but they were so creative, so creative in a short amount of time. I mean, to put together a whole slideshow and then take turns. And then another patrol actually had different items that they described, held up into the camera, and they talked about it, and then they would pass it on to another member of the patrol. And they took turns passing things along and just being silly. So it was a lot of fun. And then, of course, at the end of our meetings, we all stand up and recite the Scout Oath and Law together. And I mentioned earlier that some of the resources are available to our scouts. One of the things that we started right away was a Google Classroom account. It is free for us to do that. And it gives us the ability to share documents, to share links to home scouting, for instance. We've put all the documents that have come from council up there. One other thing that we did, like you can see right there, our link to the agenda is the top item in this particular screenshot. But then we also created a Google Drive account that's shareable, so that all of the scouts and family members and leaders can get into it. And each one of these is a folder containing the documents. So you can see this week's meeting agenda was there. We've got training and summer camp documentation. Pretty much anything you can need is on this page, so all of the parents and scouts have access. So one little hitch that we found early on was that so many of the scouts already use Google Classroom for their schoolwork. They were having trouble joining our Google Classroom, and that's because the school's domain registry wouldn't allow them to be in two different classrooms at the same time. So some of them did have to use a parent's email address or create another one of their own. So that's a great tip for everybody if you decide to use Google Classroom. Some more resources, boards of review. We've held a couple of boards of review through Zoom. It gives us a great opportunity to have plenty of leaders access to it. And I believe we had 2 in a row where we just set up individual times, and the scouts are in the virtual waiting room. We bring them in, and then at the following meeting, we could actually introduce them as having earned their rank and have a ceremony of sorts virtually. So it's gone very well. We have a number of scouts. A lot of the scouts have taken it upon themselves to be very busy taking merit badges. And so as a matter of fact, I believe Mrs. Burse is going to be meeting with a scout in about 50 minutes or so. You're doing, is it Family Life tonight?
Yeah.
Family Life meeting tonight. So we have camping and others. Oh yes, yeah. Mrs. Burse just held up a sign to remind me that because we're able to do this, 2 of our Girl Scouts have been successful in earning first class in a year. So they're really doing very well and showing us a lot of leadership. So, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Very cool. All right, so just a couple of questions then. So you've been able to find that leaders are not a problem to get on the call, and sticking with the too deep leadership thing, it's always a challenge, right? But getting leaders on the call has not been a problem for you.
No, it hasn't. As a matter of fact, in one of the first screenshots, you'd probably notice that there's a parent in almost every window pane, a parent or a leader, and sometimes that's the same person. But we're very blessed. Everybody's been very active. One thing that did help us out, I believe everybody's aware that Zoom has a 40-minute time limit for the free version. We decided as a troop to go ahead and pay the $15 a month subscription fee, but it wasn't so much for the 40 minutes because I believe they actually had suspended that restriction for the sake of the coronavirus and folks who are staying at home. But it also gives us the ability to have a single meeting ID and link so that everybody can save it into their contacts. It never changes. I can send a text message out, or we use the Remind app like a lot of schools and organizations use. I'll send a Remind app out and say, hey, we need to have a meeting tonight, and they can all click on that link and be on in a matter of minutes. So
very cool.
Yep.
Excellent. Keeping with the topic here, there's a couple things, and we will link these in the description on the YouTube video for you guys after it goes live. There's a site, lots of sites have put up things like this, but just kind of different ideas for these virtual field trips. There's all kinds of different ideas and all kinds of organizations out there that have done things like this. So we'll go ahead and prepare some different things for you guys to use, both packs and troops. And then also Brian on Scouting did a great story on conducting boards of review via video conferencing, whether you're using Zoom or Skype or Facebook Live or anything like that. There's all kinds of different things here, and we'll be sure to link this in the video as well. really the idea behind this is just trying to keep our scouts engaged and doing everything as much as they can that they would typically be doing at a meeting every Monday night or Tuesday night or whatever night your unit meets. So, Brian, I thank you for coming on tonight and for talking through this with us. I think a lot of units out there are going to find this helpful. I'm sure it was something that at first was something that you don't really know, what's going to happen with it, but using video conferencing to hold meetings seems to be a pretty good thing to do. So hopefully other units out there can kind of take this and run with it. Everything that was talked about tonight can pretty much be duplicated on the pack level too. So any Cub Scout packs out there looking to hold a pack meeting and then break off into your dens, the rooms feature was something that I was unaware of too. So very, very cool.
Well, and if I could say just one last thing about it.
Yeah.
The scouts have taken to it so much that they are holding their patrol meetings outside of our troop meetings, and not always for the sake of rank advancements. They're getting together socially just to see one another and have a good time and spend time together. So it's been healthy on top of a great experience for them to be learning and staying engaged.
Right. No, it's definitely a good thing. So thank you for your time tonight, Brian. I appreciate you coming on.
I'm Lauren Plale. I'm an Assistant District Commissioner with Kilbuck District and Buckeye Council.
Hi, and I'm Melissa Biltz. I am a membership chair for Buckeye Council as well as a Cub Master for a PAC and committee chair for a troop at Kilbuck District Buckeye Council. And we're here today to talk to you about things that can create a especially strong unit. And so we're going to start with just a little story, and I want you to have you take a few minutes and really put yourself into this situation. You and your 5-year-old child have just signed up for T-ball, and you're super excited, and you're attending what you think is your first practice. And when you arrive, you realize there's a lot more adults and kids here than one team, and there doesn't appear to be anybody in charge. And so finally somebody comes out and assembles everybody together, and they ask us all, who wants to be a coach? We don't have any coaches yet, so we just need a few volunteers to sign up and be coaches. Well, you can see this. There's actually a race by many parents to, I want to be the coach, I want to be the coach. And because that's every parent's dream, is to coach their child in a sports. So once the coaches have been assigned and the teams have been selected, they start talking about practice, and they ask, well, when do we practice? And the volunteer says, well, we don't have any practice schedules because we thought that would be up to you guys to figure out what works best for you. So you guys work it out to what days you want to practice. And they're like, okay, this is really not what I signed up for, but okay, we can do this. And the leader in the group says, well, when's our first game? So we know how many practices we can have before our first game. And again, they're met with well, we don't have those scheduled because we didn't know how many kids were going to sign up. We didn't know how many teams there were going to be. So that's up to you guys to work amongst yourselves to come up with a schedule of play. Now, does that sound familiar? If you've signed your kid up for a sports league, you know that is not what happens. And the reason that doesn't happen is because they've all met beforehand and they've put together a plan. They've had a planning conference, and they've looked at how many teams do we have, how many parent coaches will we need, how much money will we need to run the program, and then how many youth do we need to fulfill those teams. All of that works together so that by the time you sign your child up to be a member of that team, the schedule is in place, the practice schedule is in place, the volunteer coaches are in place, They know how much the uniforms are going to cost, and they know how much fundraising money is going to be needed to run that sports league. That's sporting. That is our biggest competitor in Scouts. And so the challenge is that scenario I laid out is really how many units operate. They say, well, we don't have a den leader, so we really don't need to recruit this fall because I don't want to run the whole program. So why am I going to recruit? Instead, we need to work backwards, and we need to work with the ideal situation. What's our goal? Our goal is to have 5 kids in every pack or 8 kids in every patrol, and we want to have 3 patrols. So I would need to have 24 kids in the troop, or I need to have 25 kids in the pack. And so you work with a goal, and then you start planning your work. So strong units will have 5 key ingredients, and that is they set goals, they plan their work, they determine how much money they will need to have to perform that plan, and then they recruit volunteers and youth to enjoy that plan, and then they work their plan. Those first 3-4 steps are done way before they ever bring new volunteers and new youth into the program. So I'm just going to give you some little highlights on program planning, and Lauren will be talking to you about budget planning and volunteer recruiting. But we just want to give you the high level of it, because what we're offering is a virtual training camp in June for all of you to really unpack every single one of these subjects, because we could go on, and I'm sure you don't want that tonight. We just want to be super quick and give you some outlines. And so those training sessions are outlined as we're going to have a unit program planning training. We're going to have training on utilizing the resources Scouting has, which is Scout Book and Den Leader Scout Book. And then we'll have a training session on budget planning, volunteer planning or succession planning, and then recruiting in a virtual world. And those will be coming up in June, and you'll be getting more information on that. Resources to assist you for those training sessions will be available on Buckeye Council's website, as well as they're going to be available now. So if you want to do your homework and be a good student so that you are ready for the lectures in June, you'll be well prepared. So make sure you check out those resources on buckeyecouncil.org. So as I said, a strong unit has an annual PAC program planning conference. You notice that baseball, when you go to baseball, they have the entire year's program laid out, albeit it's a 3-month program, but they don't start off in March trying to figure out their schedule in May and June. They already have that schedule, and that's what we need to do in Scouting. And our program year is an annual program, and so we should be meeting once a year and doing an annual program plan. And the things that you need to come to that program planning conference with that are really important is, number one, a school and community calendar, because what you're going to do is create a unit calendar. And so your school and community calendar is going to help to determine certain dates. For example, you don't want to plan your high adventure camp the same week as spring break for the school if all the kids are planning spring break, or even a camp out. You don't want to have those dates overlap. The second thing you need is a district and council program calendar, because you want to make sure you're utilizing those dates. I mean, realistically, Killbuck District, they offer a fall camporee and a spring camporee. That's 2 campouts that I, as a unit leader, do not have to plan. They're already there. And then you also want to identify when you're going to scout camp, if you have any high adventure camps. And on the PAC side, are there any adventure camps or lock-ins or district Pinewood Derby? You want to make sure those are on your calendar. And all of a sudden, your calendar starts filling up with events that you don't even have to plan. All you have to do is show up. The other thing you want to use on your planning calendar are your chartered organization dates. Are there important dates for your chartered organization? For example, do they have a cleanup day where they have volunteers from that organization coming? And is that something that the unit can tie in and do their community service as part of that day? So it's important to have your chartered organization calendar. And then, of course, you want to have special trips. If your Cub Master is going to be gone for a couple of weeks, you want to either make sure that somebody is there to fill those roles, or you don't want to plan a big event while the Cub Master is gone. So those are some things that it's really important for you to come to your planning conference with, are those important dates. And from there, you can start building a calendar. Once you build that calendar, it can be a rinse and repeat thing. It's a continuously improved, tweaked program. And what that does is when Lauren talks about volunteers, it gives them a sense of this is great, and we don't have to start from scratch. The biggest challenge in anything is when somebody asks you to volunteer without a plan. And so this plan is already in place, and so it can be tweaked. And whether or not you're a small unit and you and your husband are the planning conference, or if you're in a larger unit where you've included den leaders, perhaps a den chiefs if you're talking the pack, or if it's a troop, you're talking your senior patrol leader and any other youth leaders that you want in there. And so you're going to be working this, and then every year it can just be tweaked. The fun thing is we did this with a large pack that I was involved in 15 years ago, and we started this thing called Pedal to the Parlor, and it's an annual bike trip that we take on the Holmes County Rails to Trails. We ride the bikes to the pizza parlor. We get pizza, we eat, we ride our bikes back to Millersburg. And it's a fun Saturday event. And 15 years later, that unit is still doing that. And so if you can create something fun that it just carries on, your calendar is set, and it's just a rinse and repeat. And so some of the things that I've used those resources to start the calendar, but then I've also utilized resources that BSA has provided, and that is the Den Leader Scout Book, has meeting plans for all of the achievements, and it's really geared towards everyone earning their rank by the blue and gold. And it'll schedule them out, and you can move those dates around, and you can add electives, and we'll have a training that goes into more detail on that. And for the troop programming, that can also work for Cruise and Post, is they have these troop program features, which is 48 monthly themes. 48 monthly themes. That's 4 years of program planning. And so I've taken those 48 themes that range from multimedia to goal setting. There's one on setting goals and doing a project planning, and as well as hiking and camping and snow sports, all kinds of activities. And so I've taken those 48 themes, divided them out amongst 4 years to really try to get interest at all levels. Kids that love to be outdoors and kids that love to be indoors, and really get a mesh of different interests involved in the unit. And so I've also shared that resource with you, and I've developed a 1-year plan of using those resources. And so there's great things out there for us to do. And so now that I've got my plan together for the troop and the pack that I'm involved in, it's important that we start talking about money and how we're going to fund all these great things. So from here, I'm going to pass it on over to Lauren, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about budgets and volunteers.
Thank you, Melissa. Now let's start with budgeting and fundraising. You've got this great program, and now you need to have the funds to make it happen. And so what you need to do first is set up your budget. How much is that program going to cost you this year? If you have a budget already that you work with and you do an annual budget every year, stick with it. Just modify it for the activities you're doing this year. However, if you don't have one, make this the year that you create one. And yes, you may learn things this year that, you made the budget and it didn't quite work the way you thought it was going to. You need to modify it the following year. You can do that. It's a changing thing. But a budget's going to help you plan. First, you need to know how much it's going to cost you for the year, and then you can plan your fundraising. And if you have that budget, you know what your goal is. How much do you need? That's going to help you choose what fundraiser you do. So, yeah, I could go out and sell candy bars, but if I need to earn $10,000 for this year's program, I'm probably not going to make it there with candy bars. However, this other group does a pancake breakfast and they seem to make a lot more. I think I'm going to explore that a little bit more and find out how much they actually make on it and find out what's entailed. And that might be a better fundraiser for you, or a spaghetti dinner, or parking cars at the fair, or whatever it is. So it helps you choose a more appropriate fundraiser. It also helps you ensure that your scouts are motivated to actually take part in the fundraiser and successfully meet some goals. Because not only do you set a unit goal for this is how much we need this year, but you can then take that goal, break it down, and determine how much per scout that breaks down to. And then you can say, hey, Jill Scout, I need you to go out and sell $400 worth of popcorn. That's what it's going to cost us this year. Or Johnny Scout, I need you to go out and sell 15 spaghetti dinner tickets. Without that, they're probably going to stop short because they don't know what it is that they need to do. So, we're all busy. I sold spaghetti dinner tickets to my family, and I've run out of family members to sell them to, so I'm done. Well, yeah, I sold 5, and they really want you to sell 15. If that goal's there, the scout knows that. Okay, so it's really important to set that budget first before you start diving into the fundraiser. We all do fundraisers, so there's no question there. But do you have that budget to back you up there? The other reason why that budget is a really great thing to have is, remember, a scout is thrifty and a scout is trustworthy. And the way you demonstrate that to the parents is that you have a budget and you show that you have good financial stewardship of their money. It is technically, money that they've helped earn, and they want to make sure that's being spent appropriately. So having that budget that you share with them is going to motivate them, and it's also going to demonstrate that good financial stewardship. So really important to have that. As Melissa mentioned, there are worksheets on the council website for you to use to plan your budget. There are others online. If you don't like those, find a different one online. That's fine too. We're not saying you have to use that one. The one last fundraising note, and certainly there's more that we'll mention in our virtual training workshops, the adult cyber camp. But one more note for now is that if you're going to be starting a new fundraiser, make sure that you complete the unit money earning application form. It's also on the council website with the rest of these materials, and submit it to your district finance committee chair for approval. And that's just to make sure that this is a scout appropriate fundraiser. Okay, so let's transition over to a topic that most people are kind of uncomfortable with, and that's asking for help. We all need help, but it's hard to ask for. It's really hard to ask for. And Part of the reason why it's hard to ask for is some people will tell you no, but you may be surprised how many people will tell you yes if you approach it correctly. So let's talk about that. So why do I need help? I'm doing it all by myself. Well, yeah, you may be. But are you getting a little tired, getting a little burned out, feeling a little frustrated sometimes? A lot of times what I hear from unit leaders, and this is probably the most common complaint I hear as a commissioner, what I hear is, I can't get any help. Nobody volunteers. Well, how are you asking them? What are you asking them to do? Is it something that, they have the skills for? Is it something that, they would really rather pull their toenails out instead? So there are ways to do this. So instead of saying no, instead of getting someone saying no, a lot of times we'll just say, we'll do it ourselves. But think of how exciting that would be if you got new ideas. One year when I was Cub Master with a pack, we actually decided to have a blue and gold committee of other parents. And it was really great because they came up with a great idea that we never would have come up with, and they had the resources. It was an international scouting idea, and they had the resources. They knew people to bring in who aren't U.S. citizens, or maybe are U.S. citizens but have some background with other countries, information that they've been to other countries and things like that, which is really cool. And it was just really neat. And so it's really neat to get those new ideas. In order to get those new ideas, you need to get more people involved, more adults involved. The other thing is that kids like to see their parents involved. They like to be part of something that their parents are part of. And so the more interest we can get from the parents, the more the interest we'll get from the scouts. That's actually going to help with retention. I don't have data on that, but I've seen it in numerous units. The kids whose parents are not involved are the ones that are going to drop out 9 times out of 10. The ones whose parents are involved and not over-involved, not overly stressed, stay in, and they keep active, and they actually earn more. Okay, so what we want to look at then is, how do we do this? And there is a lot here, and again, we will be unpacking more of it and have a lot more suggestions at our cyber training. But just to kind of give you a basic idea, you want to first create a culture of volunteerism. Everybody helps. So when those new youth come in, and every unit has new youth coming in, you get the new parents and we all go, oh goody, new volunteers. And then what do? We say, yeah, we'll ask them to do something later. And so mistake number 1 is not asking them to do something early on. So they've already lost interest by the time you get around to asking them to do something. Or 2, asking them to do something that is too involved and too big of a task and not specific enough, and then they get scared. Okay, so the way to avoid that is to, step 2, come up with your big list of little jobs. Talk with all your current leaders and find out what little things they can offload. It may be something small like setting up chairs at the Court of Honor. That's small, but it gets the parents doing something. It may be something a little more involved, like sorting popcorn, sorting the unit's popcorn order in November in somebody's garage. It's a couple-hour job, but it's really helpful. And if you provide them with those opportunities to do these small jobs that they are then successful at, they're more likely to say yes the next time you ask. Okay? So you're setting up that culture of volunteerism. The other thing is, don't always go back to the same people every time. So if Josie's mom said yes to setting up chairs, don't always go back to Josie's mom because Josie's mom is an easy target. Find some more individuals that you haven't asked yet. Keep spreading that out so that everyone's volunteering, everybody's helping. Okay. Step 3, and this is modifying you. Think every time something comes up that needs to get done, think, who can we ask to do that? Not, I'll add it to my to-do list. It's not something that goes on your to-do list, unless it's something that absolutely has to be something that you do. Certainly a Scoutmaster conference, pretty much the Scoutmaster has to be there. But most things can be done by other people. So who can we ask to do that? Who can we ask to set up the chairs? Or who can we ask to help out with cooking the spaghetti dinner? Okay. Who can we ask to do this? So the key there is once you get this culture going, it perpetuates itself. You're more likely to get yes the next time you ask. And then it becomes easier to also fill those required unit positions because now they've had success. Okay, I know they tell me what I need to do, and so I have specifics and I've done it successfully before. I'm willing to move a little further and do a little bit more. Okay. And that's where we get into succession planning because yes, there are the big jobs that every unit has to have filled in order to recharter, things like unit leader, such as the Scoutmaster, Cubmaster, crew advisor, post advisor, the committee chair, the members of the committee, people like a treasurer, things like that. Those people need to always be in place. And so and those people are not going to stay forever. So you need to have an idea of who's going to replace them. So as the Cubmaster is crossing over with their daughter to Scouts BSA, then there needs to be an idea of who's going to be replacing that Cubmaster. And you can't just stand up in front of the crowd as the Cubmaster is crossing over and say, hey guys, we need a Cubmaster for next month's PAC meeting. And who's going to volunteer? Because what's going to happen is everyone's going to look away and they're going to look down and they're going to be thinking to themselves, don't look, don't make eye contact. We've all done it. So that's not going to happen. So if you have a succession plan that you've sat down and you've worked with your committee and worked through the plans, and by the way, there's a template for that on the council website, work through it with the committee, come up with suggestions, and talked with the people ahead of time and planned, again, as Melissa said, plan the work, then that's already set up. As the Cubmaster's crossing over, the new Cubmaster's already been helping out, and the new Cubmaster already knows the ropes. The new Cubmaster's already trained and ready to go. Okay, so that's when you've got a really successful succession plan, is when it just rolls right over and it seems seamless. And it starts with getting ideas of who can be the next person. And that starts very early on. When I had a position, I can't remember what it was, but the person who was moving out of the position as I was moving in said, oh, one piece of advice, start looking for your replacement now. I was planning on being in the position for 3 years, but I needed to start looking then as I was coming in so that I started a succession plan. And start doing that early. You don't have to talk with them. You don't have to talk with the people that you're going to ask to take the position right away, but start working with them and start getting to know them and starting to see if that would be a good fit for them. Okay. So there's a whole lot more to this picture. There's a whole lot of things that we can share with you. And so can't wait to do that at our cyber training when we talk again in June. Melissa, I'm going to pass it back to you. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just want to thank everybody for attending today, and hopefully you'll be signing up for the training next month to dive into each of these a little deeper. Thanks for coming.
Great. Have a great year and hope to see you again in June.
Thank you, Melissa and Lauren. Those are very valuable program planning tools. The highlight of any scouting year is, of course, summer camp. It is the place where we forge new skills, reflect on what it means to be a scout, and reconnect with one another in the outdoors. The current pandemic we face has impacted many things, and unfortunately, that includes summer camp. There is no higher priority to us than the safety of our scouts, scouting families, and volunteers. On April 29th, after careful consideration of current state of Ohio and local health department guidance on the possible openings of camp this summer, the Buckeye Council Board of Directors has decided to cancel all outdoor camping programs until June 28th. This was a difficult decision and was made with the primary focus on safety of camp participants, followed by the practical realities involved in getting camp ready for a quality experience. Additionally, all district and council activities and events between now and June 27th are either canceled, postponed, or will be conducted virtually. No utilization of council properties will be available during this time. Scout units should suspend in-person meetings, outings, and activities until further notice. The Buckeye Council service centers and stores in Canton, Mansfield, and Marion will remain closed until further notice. We will continue to closely monitor the situation while simultaneously preparing to open camps on June 28th. New procedures are being put in place to ensure a safe environment for all camp participants in accordance with state and local health department guidelines. Now for something a little lighter. Expanding on virtual programs like home scouting, we have created Cyber Summer Camp launching on June 8th to deliver an exciting STEM-based adventure. This allows families to continue to enjoy scouting from the comfort of their home. Content will be updated daily, featuring live, interactive videos with NASA engineers, and will be available on the virtual campground at any time to meet the needs of families. Registration is open now. Check out this video to learn more.
Good evening, Scouters, and thanks for being part of this event. We very much appreciate your time. I'm Kurt Holmes, your council president, and we've all wished we could have been present with you. Much better to be face-to-face and have some time communing as Scouters, but in this world of COVID, we've had to do things a little differently. I want to thank the team for putting this together, and particularly the office staff who have been responding to challenges for the last 2 months as we figured out what scouting looks like in this new world order. There's been no higher priority that we've had than the safety of our youth and adults. And that's meant a lot of changes, things we can't do that we are used to doing. And we're going to be still finding those as time goes on in the coming months. I work in healthcare, and it's been a challenging time. We've got nurses out in the field talking to patients. I work for a hospice, and every day is a risk. And we think that that's the world that all of you are managing as well, whether you've been home or you're often work as an essential business. We appreciate all of you are doing to stay connected. The challenge for us this summer was really figuring out what summer camp was going to look like. And the board took a very solemn meeting and a lot of time to talk through, and the decision to postpone the start of camp and to move us into the third week before we kick off wasn't made lightly. It took a lot of soul searching to decide whether that was the right thing to do and where we should be as a council. Lots of camps across the country and even in our local area have decided to close, and we ultimately may have to make some tougher decisions A lot of that's going to rest on what happens with the CDC and Governor DeWine. We will continue, out of an abundance of caution, to respond in a conservative way and to make the decisions that first and foremost put our youth and families first. Our strategic plan, if you were at any of the sessions this spring and over the winter, heard me say, tell God your plans if you want to hear him laugh. We've got 4 categories: human resources, financial stability, impacting communities, and delivering on our promise. And while those challenges remain and we are committed to moving forward on those fronts, we've had to respond as well and to reframe that. The obvious example is, well, we set some goals in financial improvement. There are challenges with operating when revenue sources have changed. So we've had to adapt each of those categories, but we'll continue to push out that information to you and to keep you connected with the big picture. I've been very proud of the way the office has responded by creating home scouting, cyber camp, and planning for the summer. Those are just some of the examples of the ways changing our plan keeps our mission forefront. Scouting is about serving youth. It's not about a particular outing. It's not about a particular event. And for those of us who are part of the old guard, it isn't about the good old days the way we used to do it. Our youth are struggling right now themselves. For most of them, they've lost schooling opportunities. They have to be trapped at home. They've lost their socializing activities. And so I want to thank each of you for the work you're doing to keep your units active, to stay connected, and to do events with them, even if they're virtual. We have been guiding youth for over 100 years and need to continue to do that and to reach out to them, making sure that at this time, scouting is a valuable piece for them. We talk about it as outing and scouting. Well, it's also about the character building. And right now, these youth are benefiting from a really challenging time that can help build that character. So stay with it, stay strong, keep scouting forefront, and thank you. I'm going to kick over at this point to Bernie Miner, our Commissioner for the Council, to share some thoughts as well. Bernie?
Thanks, Kurt. As Kurt indicated, my name's Bernie Miner, and I'll try my best not to be repetitive about what I provided earlier during this kickoff. But I do want to reiterate, commissioners are here to assist your units, helping to advise unit leaders and to provide resources that are necessary for them to provide the best possible scouting experiences that we can for our scouts, even in this time of COVID-19. As noted throughout this presentation, the home scouting program was just a start. Cyber Summer Camp next is on the agenda, and we'll be providing our scouts with a unique opportunity for STEM activities. This is designed to replace summer camp? No, it's not. But I'll also admit there are many things we don't know right now at this moment. And what we think we know, guess what? It might change. I know a lot of current questions and discussions are about how summer camp will be operated, and we don't know all the answers right now, except we do know it's going to be different. We've rescheduled Cub Scout Day Camp and Boy Scout Camp, and we've delayed the starts. We can only assume that our scouting professionals and many qualified volunteers are in constant contact, and the discussions about how we're going to operate and provide safe environments for all participants are ongoing. As the information becomes available, it will be shared with you directly, most likely through email postings or perhaps Zoom meetings or other electronic measures. We, and I purposely use the term we, are not going to like all the answers, so be patient and work with us. While commissioners have been active throughout the recent weeks contacting their units and staying in touch with unit leaders, we're going to continue to do so in the coming weeks. First, our efforts were designed as wellness checks, and secondly, to see how we might assist in keeping our scouting units moving forward. Our efforts will now continue along those same lines in the coming weeks. However, if you have specific needs or specific questions, don't hesitate to contact your unit commissioner. You don't know your unit commissioner, then contact either the district commissioner or your district executive, or by all means, please contact me directly. Above all, keep the faith and keep scouting strong. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jesse Roper, our council executive, for a few remarks as well.
Good evening, and thank you for your participation in the Buckeye Council Program Kickoff. I would like to thank the volunteers and the staff who organized and played a key role in today's program. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused uncertainty and disruptions in all areas of daily lives of people. The spread of the virus has severely strained the Ohio healthcare system, closed schools and universities, and canceled sporting events. As Kurt said, there is no higher priority to Buckeye Council than the health and safety of our scouts, scouting families, and volunteers. These are unprecedented times, and my hope is that you, your family, and scouting families are well. Being a part of the scouting movement for the past 20 years and working with volunteers from all walks of life who deliver life-changing experiences to children, youth, and families has helped me in my personal growth and has given me a better sense of community. Scouting has played an integral role in building leaders and developing character in the communities we serve in Buckeye Council. The council will be steadfast in working with volunteers at every level to ensure the future of this great program. You have seen this in a few of our new program offerings like home scouting, as Bernie touched on, virtual meetings and events, and new opportunities like Cyber Summer Camp. Our job is to help you stay connected by partnering with you so you can continue to shape the lives of young people in our society. Thank you for what you've done and what you'll continue to do, and I will see you on the trail soon. So now we're going to jump into questions and answers. You guys submitted questions that you wanted the key three to answer. So we're going to take 3 to 4 of those questions that were sent in. The first question is, what protocols will be put in place to make sure people are safe at camp? I can tell you I've been a part of many meetings since the onset of this situation, and we are discussing that in full detail now. I don't have a ton of situations, information that I can provide to you as of right now, but I will share a couple of things that we've talked about. So some things that we've talked about is merit badge restrictions. We've talked about pipestone and how we conduct pipestone. We've talked about disinfecting and making sure common areas were clean. We've talked about a myriad of things that we're going to have to definitely keep on our watch list as we get into the camping season. If you have information you would like to share from us, or if you're from any of those industries that has put policies and guidelines, you can always reach out to me at my desk line at the office. The next question is there any way a council can provide tools to leaders to help them create virtual lessons from home? My answer to that would be yes. I am working with my team currently right now to establish a group of individuals who can help us put together den meetings and meetings alike that can be produced, that units can use, and that we put on a YouTube site for the use of units. This is something that we know we're going to have to do in the future in working with our volunteers, and something that we know that will go well if we're able to put on a high quality production of those things. If this is something that you're interested in, you can also reach out to me or any of my team members, and we will reach back out to you and see how we can get that taken care of. Our next question is, will there be any considerations for Journey to Excellence? It's funny, I was having a meeting with my key three, and I just spoke to them about that also. Yes, we have received a note from the national organization that has said there will be adjustments that will be made to Journey to Excellence due to everything that's going on now. And I'm sure this will be in the form of, if you look at the number of kids you recruited, you look at market share, you look at some of the programs you were able to put on throughout the year that you had to potentially cancel or postpone, those things will be taken into consideration. We have not received any details from our national organization who is responsible for DTE on what those changes will look like. But as soon as we receive them, we will get them out to our units. So you have that information and you can make the adjustments that you need to make to make sure your units are doing what they're supposed to do to follow that protocol. Our next question is, what is the status of Cub Scout Day Camp? And then there was a quote saying, I believe it was canceled. So the only day camps that were canceled were day camps that were specifically set in the month of June. Those opportunities were canceled, and there will still be a ton of opportunities in July with day camps and twilight camps. And there is a schedule of listings that you should have received in your program calendar as far as those are concerned. There are also going to be other opportunities for Cub Scouts at our camp this summer, 7 Ranges, where kids can go to Cub Scout resident camp and participate with their groups and their families in that operation also. Again, if you have any questions, concerns about Cub Scouts and the program or participating in day camps this summer, you can reach out to our Buckeye Council, and you guys should know the number on that one. That was our last question. And like I said, I want to thank everybody for their participation again today and all that you do in scouting and preparing young people to make ethical decisions. I want to leave you with a quote from Darren Kagan, and I think this really does go with what we're dealing with today. And it was powerful when I read it, so I wanted to share it with the group. And it says, bad things do happen in the world, like war, natural disasters, and disease. But out of those situations always arise stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And one thing that I know that I've been a part of for the last 20 years, I've been a part of definitely for the last 2 years, is people doing great things in scouting and having great impacts on the community. So continue to do what you've done. We'll get through this together, and we'll be better for it on the back end. So thank you again for all you do. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.